Welcome, Dr. Levy. Do you mind if I call you Alissa?
Absolutely, you can call me Alyssa.
Okay, let's start with you just telling the listeners a little bit about yourself.
All right, thank you. First, thank you for having me. I'm excited about this opportunity. My name is Dr. Alissa Levy. I am a veteran educator originally from Los Angeles, California. From a family of teachers, my mom was a elementary school teacher, bilingual, and my grandmother taught special education. I have had every conceivable title in the realm of public education, from substitute teacher to math coach, all the way through. I founded a public charter Montessori school in 2014 in New Haven, Connecticut. I live at home with my wife. I have 2 dogs and currently 7 cats because my cat had kids.
Oh, 7 cats. The 2 dogs I get. I also have 2 dogs. I have a Boston Terrier and a Yorkie Poo. And
Nice.
they're my babies. We're so glad to have you and for you to share all of this amazing insight you have from having all these roles and all of the experiences that you've had in education. So, you are pretty much an expert at getting kids to start off their day in the right way through having a morning routine. So, how did you stumble upon that as something that interests you and something that you would like to teach other people?
Yeah, it came to me through a variety of pathways. Having a Montessori background, I think routine and structure has always just been something I've gravitated toward. But as you probably know, being in the classroom for any number of years, you start to see that kids struggle with different things that can fall into different buckets. And you've got your kids who are gifted but not motivated. You've got your kids who struggle with anxiety. They don't want to ask questions. So that leads to some difficulties. And then you have a whole group of kids, a whole subset that struggle because they have the knowledge, but they're disorganized. So they struggle with time management, prioritization, just personal responsibility and independence. I thought to myself, there's so much that I want to teach these kids, but just not enough hours in the day. So if I could put it all into a book that they could read, then maybe they could take some of that knowledge and gain some of these organizational skills, executive function skills with support at home. So
Oh, I love that. So you have written a book that you just mentioned, and it's called Morning Routines for Productive Teens. And I love that there is a resource that kids and teens can go to in order to get better. I know I've read in the past couple of years Atomic Habits and other books because I've also been interested in developing a morning routine that's going to make me just better at life and
yes.
more effective and efficient at getting things done. So I love that you have that for them. And also, it's very interesting that you mentioned how your Montessori background led you to this. So tell us a little bit about that because I have studied Montessori a little bit, not a lot, but just through my study abroad experience. And I guess I didn't realize that Montessori included so much emphasis on structure. So tell us a little bit about that, just because I'm interested.
Yeah, I would love to. So, as you may know, Dr. Maria Montessori was one of the first physicians in all of Italy. She was the first female physician in Italy, and she was licensed, but because of being a woman, she found it difficult to find a job as a physician, and she ended up working at a state hospital for students with developmental disabilities. And so, although she was the physician there, she noticed that the students were not being educated. They were not expected to do very much throughout their day. And she wanted to help them because she saw that they had potential to develop some skills for independence and for self-care and things like that. So she started by developing tools for that subset of children, and eventually her curriculum was so successful that it became the national kindergarten curriculum in Italy. And if you want to think about Montessori in a way that's relatable, I feel, to elementary teachers, it's like having stations every single day. So the kids are at different stations and the teacher's guiding a small group. And because of that, and as anyone who's tried this knows, that takes a lot of structure. You've got the timers going, you've got the kids assigned to their different groups, but it's all color coded. So you know that everything has to be extremely well organized so that it can be successful, so that you can have 6 things going on at the same time. The kids have to be able to check their own work, the kids have to know where the materials are. And that's basically what Montessori is in a nutshell. And it does work, but it requires a lot of front loading and a lot of pre-thinking on the part of the teacher to just structure it in that way that kids can be successful.
It's so interesting hearing you talk about it that way because I just haven't thought about it that way. But when I reflect on my own classroom in the last few years that I was a classroom teacher, that's exactly what I was doing. I just was calling it centers and student owned learning. But I too had to develop very strong routines and procedures in the first few years when I was trying to teach this way and I didn't have routines and procedures like I did later. It just was a flop.
Yes.
One of the things I remember about Montessori, I don't know why this is, I don't know why this is like such a strong tie to Montessori, but I remember the emphasis put on real materials, organic materials, and nature and things like that. And my husband is a cabinet builder.
Oh,
So
wow.
sometimes I'll go to his shop and I see like the scrap pile where he's cut off a piece of wood and now it's a block that's just in the trash. And every time I see that, I'm like, hey, I could take this to school. This would be a good station.
Yeah, good learning material.
I need to do a little bit more studying on Montessori. But I love that. So what are some of the topics that you talk about in your book?
Okay. Yeah. When I went to go write the book, because like I said, I wanted to make this guide for kids that struggle with organization. But I thought, like, that's a big topic and I could probably write several books on it. So let's just start with the first thing, which I felt was the morning. I feel like they're leaving things at home and they don't know that they've got a test that day and things like that. So I felt, okay, the morning's a good place to start. And it's also manageable. And most kids have some type of morning routine, whether or not it's effective. So I felt like some tweaks would be easy to do there. So some things in my book are things like how to calculate your ideal bedtime, how to know when to go to sleep and when to wake up so that you're getting enough sleep, how to even clean and organize your learning space, like your desk, your bed, how to write a manifesto. I call it a manifesto, but it's like basically a personal mission statement so that you're goal focused, and how to enlist your family's support in your morning routine so that it is successful and that you're all working together and not running into each other. So some things like that are in the book.
So let's talk about it from a parent's perspective.
Yeah.
So, what are some morning habits, micro habits, things like that, that maybe a mom can help her children with in the mornings?
Yeah. A super easy one is making the kids' bed. So having them make their bed when they get up, it sets the tone for we expect to keep our space organized. We expect to be productive from like the minute we get out of bed. We're going to make our bed as well so that when we come back in the afternoon, it's an inviting place for us to go and hang out. Drinking a glass of water is a super easy one as well that I have tried to incorporate in my own life as a micro habit. I try to wake up and immediately drink 8 ounces of water so that I'm getting toward that target by the end of the day. Other things that you can have the kids do is a quick stretching routine. You can have them help prep their breakfast. Like my nephew, he likes to cook, but he wants to do everything himself, and he's about 9 years old. He got a book and it's kebabs for kids. That's actually the name of it, but it's every type of kebab. So my mom will prepare him little tubs of strawberries and mini pancakes, things like that, and he makes it into a kebab and he loves that. So he'll eat that for breakfast and he feels that accomplishment that he did it himself.
Ah, I love that. Oh my gosh. Like I've seen TikToks where an adult is more likely to make a salad because there is a little bowl of carrots that are washed and this and that, and you just put it together. And I always see those and I'm like, yeah, if I had that, I would be eating salad every day.
There's a section about meal prep in the book too, like teaching kids how to meal prep. So I think it's important.
Oh, it is so important. So as a parent, I think it's more important to us as we get started on this for the child to do it than necessarily the child thinks that it's important. So, how
Yeah.
can you help your child to take ownership of their morning routine so they want to do it? I think that kebab was a really good example of that.
Yeah. As we learn in the classroom, if you have the kids co-create with you and bring their inspiration into it, they're going to be more willing and able to do it themselves. I think one thing you could do is work with your kid. You don't want their morning routine to be overwhelming, so you want to start honestly with maybe 3 to 5 things depending on how old they are. So you can have the kid help you make a visual schedule. You can have the kid help you make a playlist that lets them know by the end of this playlist, we should have taken our shower and be dressed in the morning or what have you. Or
I
this is
love
the
that.
song that we make our lunch to, or whatever it is, or just a couple of ideas.
That playlist idea is so good. And I'm sorry to interrupt you. It was almost like, oh, yeah, a playlist. So, one thing that I've noticed about my own morning routines is that I don't always stick to them long term. I get really excited in the beginning and I do all the things. And then next week, maybe one thing gets off. And then pretty soon I'm back to square one. So, what
Eh,
are some tips to help your child and you, because it, as a parent, it also takes you to stick to a morning routine for the long run?
yeah. I think obviously making it manageable, making it doable for your kid is the first thing. But I think you can make it fun and challenging in a way. You can have a little competition. I have 5 things on my list and you have 5 things on your list. Let's see who can get it done the quickest, that type of thing. Or if you're into incentives, I think you can incentivize it, but it doesn't have to be like a tangible reward or like a monetary reward. You could say, if you're able to do this, then we're going to go to the park after school today. Or if you do it for 4 days in a row, we'll do this. But I think people who write books about habits, like 7 Habits and stuff like that, they'll tell you that I think it's 21 days or something makes a habit. So I think that's the thing, is like getting over that hump. And it's not maybe going to be the whole morning routine that gets over that hump. So then, but at least you have something to build on.
And I've noticed with myself, even though I have had certain habits fall, certain routine parts fall by the wayside, other ones have stayed.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're constantly assessing where you are in your life and your needs for the day or during that era, you can just continue to be cognizant of making it a priority.
Yeah, and it does set the tone for your whole day. So it is important, and it starts you with that sense of accomplishment. So I think if you can see the importance for it and convey that to your kid too, then I think that'll help with the buy-in.
So, all of those are great things for parents, but let's talk about how this might work from a teacher perspective. And you have a lot of experience in that. How can a teacher start integrating those routines into their day, what you talked about earlier?
I think that teachers naturally do this. And I think that we tend to, it's the same as our personal routine at home. We tend to pick up different pieces each year and drop others and stuff like that. I think having a personal greeting, you would see a lot of these videos also on TikTok, like of teachers that they let the kid pick, do you want a high five this morning or like a hug? But greeting the kid at the door is that first step of that morning routine. I personally am a big fan of morning meeting. So my kids will come in, the way that I organize my classroom leads them into their morning routine. So I want them to walk in, get their math notebook, which is right when they come in on the left. They're color coded. Each kid's notebook is a certain color in a certain pile. And then they're going to be forced, because of the way my classroom is, to pass by the board, which has their seating chart on it for the day. Mine changes daily because we do building thinking classrooms. But then after that, it's like they're going to eat their breakfast. And then they know that when the bell rings, we're going to come together and have a quick morning meeting. And I have middle school, so it's rotating. So some periods are anywhere between 45 and 75 minutes. So we're going to have a quick thing, whether it's a whip around with compliments and thank yous. I'll go over the schedule. I'll let them know what our learning target is for the day. All those types of things are what I would consider like the morning routine for the classroom.
Mm, that's good. And it's good for the students, but it's also good for the teacher to know exactly what you're going to be doing each day and to not waste time. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest things that I always loved about having a strong morning routine in my classroom is there was never going back to your backpack right before a lesson to get your paper, and there was never all those other things. So I do think a morning meeting is a good way to transition from home to school life.
Yes.
Where does consistency fit in?
So consistency is huge. It's one of the kind of key aspects of any morning routine. If you don't do it consistently, then it's not a routine. It has to be consistent. It has to be predictable, and it has to be simple enough that you don't have to even necessarily write it down after a while. The thing about consistency, it's what Montessori would call control of error. So basically, you want the kids to be successful, and there's different ways to do that. a lot of what Montessori does is within the physical environment. Like you were mentioning about the blocks earlier, you can't fit a large block into a small hole, right? That's control of error because the kid knows they're doing it wrong. It doesn't fit. So basically, control of error in some sense is that predictable morning routine. Like I want them to get out their math notebook. They know that they're going to write the topic at the top. They know that we're going to have some type of class activity and that they're going to have to write a big idea at the bottom of their notes that summarizes what we did that day. Everything is very structured and predictable, which I think is built off of that idea.
And so do you do a similar thing, what you mentioned earlier with a parent and a child, building ownership by designing the plan together and things like that? Do you do the same thing with your classroom? Or do you just say, no, this is what it is, and I'll teach you the routine?
The way that I try to deal with that, so I think of my classroom routine as like in chunks, but then within the chunks, I have the kids help me with decisions throughout the day. So we can do, let's say that we are going to have a test the next day. So we can do a review game, but I'll give the kids a choice. Do you guys want to do, this is our slot for review games. Do you guys want to do a Kahoot, or would you guys rather do a musical chairs thing where you do a review sheet together? So just giving them choice and having them come up with it. And sometimes it's like those somewhat false choices. Do you want to go to bed now or in 15 minutes? But do you guys want to do your homework first, or should we do a review game? That type of thing. So I try to like have some input.
It works. It works. I remember when my youngest daughter was little, she did not ever want to go to bed. So we had a thing, and I guess it was a routine, a bedtime routine, but it was called the questions. And my husband would just give her a million choices. Do you want this stuffed animal or this stuffed animal? Do you want the door opened or closed? Do you want to sleep with a book or a toy? Like a million different little questions that did not matter, but to her, it mattered.
Yeah, because they feel that control. At least they have some input into it, and it's not being like imposed upon them. So
Okay, so we're going to play a little game that is all about you and your morning routine. So I'm just going to ask you a question, and you can just finish it with the first thing that pops into your head.
all right, sounds good.
Okay, so the first thing I do when I wake up is
I'll let the dogs out.
we have a doggy door. Thank goodness I never have to get up and let the dogs out.
We live in an area with like wildlife, so I can't like let them out by themselves. So I just let them out and watch them while I drink my coffee, and then
We have had a cat come in through the doggy door before, so
that wasn't yours. Wow.
no. Okay, my favorite morning ritual is
It's probably just playing with my cats. Like I would and then right now I have kittens, which makes it extra fun. But after I let the dogs out, I would go around the house and I would refill everyone's food and water. And then I would just spend a little bit of time like cuddling with my cat. And I just love it when they purr, and I just love cats. So
oh, all those little kittens.
yeah.
You said in your last one, you're drinking your coffee. To me, that's my favorite part of my morning ritual. And my husband in the last couple of years has started bringing me a cup of coffee in bed every morning. And I don't know where that came from. I think he just did it one time, and I made such a big deal about how much I appreciated it that he did it again. And then I just kept being like, oh my gosh, this isn't the best part of my day. There's just something about, I don't know, something about, it's a simple act, but it's just, I don't know, it's just so sweet. So that is my favorite part for sure. I feel like at night when I get ready for bed, sometimes I just lay there and I think, oh, in the morning I get to have coffee.
Yes, no, and that's the thing too with the kids too. So like you're saying, like you look forward to that small thing, like whether you got a new type of coffee or you got a new creamer like at the store. It's those small things. If you talk with your kid and find out, is there something that would make you excited to start your morning routine? Then I think those are things that you incorporate, and that would be helpful.
Yeah, and those little choices that you were talking about, because one of the other things I love about when my husband brings me coffee is every morning he picks a different coffee cup. So I have a collection of just weird ones that I picked up Goodwill or here or some, I don't know, anytime I see one that's weird, I'm like, ooh, I like this. We just went to Hawaii for a vacation and I wanted to get a souvenir. So we went to Goodwill and I said, I want a coffee cup that's actually Hawaiian. So I went and found one that was not like your typical souvenir that you get at a souvenir shop. I wanted a real Hawaiian mug, and now
That is,
that's in my collection. But it's just like the fun choice of what today, it doesn't matter which cup, but it just adds to the, I don't know, the fun of the day. Okay, so the next one is the most relaxing part of my morning is.
probably the shower. I would indulge in the morning and take a bit of a longer shower, but I've also come to, as part of my morning routine, like I had set an alarm for when I need to be out of the shower at the maximum. So that's been helpful too, because it actually lets me relax. Like I do my most of my morning routine. Then when I get in the shower, I know, I'd like to have a long shower, but if my alarm goes off, I know that's like my midpoint in my morning routine and I need to be there by that time. Otherwise, I'll be stressed for the second half.
Now, the next one is my go-to breakfast is.
Overnight oats. I'm gonna say overnight
Mm.
oats. Yeah, I like the different variety. I like to think of ideas at the grocery store and think of the toppings that I can put in it. And then I love the grab and go aspect because if I am in a hurry, I can just throw it in my bag also and eat it at like on prep or whatever.
Oh, you've just inspired me because I keep thinking I'm going to try some overnight oats. Because again, on TikTok, I keep seeing different recipes for them, but I haven't ever actually tried it except for when I bought overnight oats from the grocery store already prepared.
Yeah.
Probably not the same. Okay, the next one is the quickest way to ruin my morning routine.
I'm going to say if the copier is down, like when I get to work. But it's gotta be either that or just spilling something on myself so that I have to change. That's gonna be one of those two.
Okay, if you could add one more hour to your morning, what would you add to your routine?
I would probably add reading something inspirational or watching something inspirational just to give myself that boost and like remind myself why I do what I do. I actually like to watch America's Got Talent as like my inspiration. I see the young kids on there and I just see their potential and it just inspires me to remember why I do what I do. I'd probably watch AGT if we're being honest.
I feel the same way when I watch it. Every time or maybe it's just the mood that I'm in. I'm like, oh, I should watch that because it's just on my DVR. And it's always if I'm feeling maybe uplifted myself, that's what I want to watch. It must go
Yeah.
hand in hand. Okay. The last one is the most important thing I do for my students every morning is.
I think check in and just ask them genuine questions about their day, their life, their weekend, if it's their birthday, that kind of thing. You just learn so much about a kid that you just it would surprise you. That one of my students the other day checked in with him and I said, "What are you going to be up to this weekend?" And not to stereotype, but he's not an athletic kid that plays sports or anything. They said he's going to go ride jet skis. And I thought that was like, I just didn't picture him as riding a jet ski, but it was cool to find that out. So I like getting to know the kid.
I guess that's why the morning meeting is so crucial.
Yeah.
That's a good time to find out things like that. Okay, so I mentioned your book, Morning Routines for Productive Teens. So if there's anything else you want to share about it, we'd love to hear, but we also want to know where we can find it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So currently, my book, Morning Routines for Productive Teens, is only available on Amazon. It's available on Kindle as well as in a paperback version. And you can find everything to do with my book at alissalevyBooks.com, which is my name, ALISSALEVYBOOKS.com. And that will link you also to my Facebook page, or if you want to email me, it's also alissalevyBooks@gmail.
And we'll have all of this in the show notes so people can just go to the show notes and click those links as well.
Perfect. I hope for it to be in more widespread distribution soon, but right now it's only.
I am so glad that you decided to come on and talk to us about this. Everything you say, I'm just in awe.
Thank you. I appreciate that. This was really fun, and I'm really glad that I did this.
You have so much good advice. And I feel like I could continue to talk to you for another hour and you would continue to have more and more ideas and insights.
I love it. It's truly my passion, like kids, education, the whole thing.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. And I hope you have a great day.
You're welcome. You too.